All right. Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to another episode of Melanin and Moonlight. I am one of your co-hosts, Tyrell Collins.
And I'm Vernon Scott. How you doing, friend?
I'm doing good. How you doing, friend?
Doing really good. I'm ready for tonight's conversation. I will say that. I'm super excited to rant a little bit, but we'll get into
Yes.
the rant later.
Yeah, so, and of course, like we say to all of our viewers, we hope that we're bringing you, we hope to continue to bring you, such diverse content. We had such a wonderful time talking about Beyond the Gates last week. So, of course, me and Vernon were always, plugged into TV and movies and stuff like that. So we love talking about entertainment, things like that. But, we do also, love to talk about other realms of things, in reality sort of senses. Of course, we're gonna tackle some politics, things that's going on with politics tonight. So hopefully you're engaged for a great conversation.
Yeah, so let's go ahead. Wait, before we even jump into that, have you been watching Beyond the Gates? I feel like I already know the answer is yes, but are you caught up? Are you on
Oh,
episode 10? Where are we at?
oh yeah, yeah. Always caught up. Yeah.
Okay, good, good.
The
Because
only
I
thing I will say is I think what's funny in the soap community is that people are like, shoot, now that they have a nut like a whole like new soap, it's like that, it's like damn, like the soap takes up like majority of my TV week because it's on every day. So for people who like watch multiple soaps, that means that you're watching what? If you're watching three soaps, that means that you're watching at least like 15 episodes of something
Mhm.
a week.
That is so true. I
Like,
caught up yesterday on Beyond the Gates, and I was like, okay, cool, got my fill. Let me go ahead and watch the other things, and I try to
yeah.
be strategic with it too. I was like, let me watch the things that I can enjoy while gaming. Then let me
Mhm.
watch this thing. My friend Shane, forever, she sent me this Chinese drama, and it
Ooh.
was so trash. Oh my God, it was so good. Like, so I was like, let me make sure I watch that because it's been on my list of things to watch for like the entire week. And then I was like,
Mhm.
okay, I got all these things taken care of now. Let me go ahead and create this time
Mhm.
for Beyond the Gates, and enjoyed it.
Yeah, and sometimes that's what you also have to do, like, because I know, like, a lot of people will, like, when it comes to, like, the soap opera or, like, other things, you just, you tend to binge watch, so, it's kind of like, okay, let me just get everything out the way, like, now. So, like, I think carving out, time,
Hmm.
for specific, shows and things like that, it's good.
Right, right.
Yeah. So.
All right, now to jump into this political conversation. Oh my God. So, for those who are political savvy, or those who may not be, last Tuesday, if I remember the date correctly, um, Trapina decided to have a State of the Union address, and the Orange Monster was just like, whatever. I wasn't paying any attention to that. But the really highlight that really had me shook to my core because I was angry that night, not even dealing with Orange Face, but because nobody else stood with this man,
Mm,
nobody else stood with Representative Al Green from Texas, and
mm,
I was just like, "Where are y'all? Where?" Oh, sorry, I'm supposed to be giving y'all the background. So. Representative Al Green, he's from the state of Texas, I think the ninth congressional district. So essentially, he stood up in protest, advising Trump that essentially he does not have a mandate to get rid of Medicaid. And he stood on business. He had that cane like, listen here, I'm talking to you. You're going to receive this information. And of course, the House Speaker, Mike Johnson, was like, Al Green was not in decorum, so they had him removed and subsequently had him censured. Now, here's my frustrations. Like I was saying earlier, We have people out here protesting. We have people out here rightfully frustrated. We have people who are of the MAGA persuasion who are now upset because they had to fuck around and find out. And now that they're finding out, they're frustrated. And I get it. I get it. I'm not, it's not about them. But we have so many people, especially on the Democratic side, that's out here like, come on, we want our representatives to fight against fascism. We want our representatives to really stand with us. And here we are. We have this opportunity to stand with yet like create a true coalition around this person. Like you started the address with boos, which I was living for. I was like, yes, boo this man, and then the boos stopped as soon as Representative Green was taken out, and I'm just like, what are we doing here? Like, are you all going to just be complacent here? And yes. Having the passive protest is great. Yes, you can have signs saying that Elon Musk is a liar, or saying stuff about you cannot get rid of Medicaid. That is great. Wearing the pink, that I get it, silent protest. But as someone of the African American community who has experienced how quickly people will not pay any mind to you for being silent or having a quiet protest,
Yeah.
which is why there's been a lot more disruptive protests as of late, be it with stopping traffic and all that. I know just sitting there with a shirt on or sitting there with a sign on is not doing much. It may frustrate the orange mouthpiece or whatever, but it's not going to really make the message that you want. Stand up.
Mhm.
Be be assertive, okay? You don't have to be aggressive, but you can stand up and support each other. And to see this man be there all by himself, I literally was asking myself, okay, Jasmine Crockett, I love how you've been speaking these past couple of years, how you've been holding Republicans accountable. Where are you in this moment? Hakeem
Mhm.
Jeffries, where are you in this moment? Even though his voice irritates me and I'm tired of seeing the man, but at the same time, where are you in this moment? Like,
Yeah.
it's so frustrating to see that they just left this man out there to hang and dry by himself, and it's like, w why can we not be a supportive voice? Why can we not stand with someone who is actually standing for what's right for a lot of people, for his constituents and every constituent of this country who happens to be on Medicaid or whatever the case may be? We have people still being fired.
Yes.
So that's
And
that's
that's
where I wanted to start.
Yeah, no, no, you bring up such a great point because, like, looking at, what happened, as I call him, the occupant of the White House, you know,
Mm,
um, it's one of those things where when we look at the entirety of the situation and when the whole aspect of decorum got thrown out, my immediate thing was, okay, why are we speaking about decorum? Because, and so I had the question of, should there always be decorum in politics when policies that harm vulnerable people are at stake? Because the thing about disruption is that you don't have to loot or you don't have to yell or, as you were saying, be aggressive or all those things to create disruption. Like you were saying, if people would have stood with him, that's an automatic disruption. And I'm wondering if maybe the reason why people didn't, and I'm not saying this is an excuse by any means, is because I think when it comes to politics nowadays, and I think this is a very onset of not just social media, but for all the progressive, kind of movements we have, there's no like organization with it. It's like everybody is like on their own because everybody has their own platforms, their own followings, and things like that. And something that I truly miss, and it's not to say, of course, it was damn for sure not easier. But one of the things that I miss is I miss looking at organized disruptive protest.
mm,
I love seeing, like you were saying, I love seeing leaders come together to fight for this, to actually disrupt a system. So, disrupting oppressive norms is always necessary for progress. And history has often always shown us that political bodies rarely change without pressure. And so
Hmm.
decorum is often a tool to silence, other to silence us. It's to say like, oh, our method of behavior is not appropriate if
Hmm.
you have an outburst, or your method of being, or again, your method of behavior is not right if you're not following, this particular act, right? So as I think about like obviously as we talk about the January 6th insurrection, right? Disrupted democracy itself. Yet you still have many people who downplay, right? And
Hmm.
defend the actions of it. However, this black man who's a progressive leader faces harsher consequences for merely raising his voice
Right, right, and
because you don't like how he says something.
it's amazing to me because what he did was speak facts. It wasn't as though it was something that he was being disrespectful in the moment. It's not like he was like, "Fuck you, Trump, you
Yes,
all fat." He wasn't doing
e-
any of that.
exactly. And unlike the occupant of the White House, his outbursts or his sayings is not about political theater.
Mm-mm.
It's about survival, right? If Medicaid cuts are an equity issue. And when you are in the realm of politics, if you are prioritizing decorum over people's lives and livelihoods, you're failing your constituents.
Mm.
So it's like, at what point, again, does this decorum conversation, which shouldn't even be a conversation because it's distracting from the main message? And that's what tends to happen. It's like, okay, I'm going to bring this up so that way we have something else to talk about.
Right.
You
And
know,
it literally erases the true message as that Representative Green was trying to point out anyways. And speaking of Greens, where was decorum when Marjorie was all up in
Mhm.
here booing and yelling and looking like I don't know whatever the hell she is, but
Yeah,
like
exactly. Exactly. You're exactly right. Because when Marjorie and even I think what Lauren
forward.
Boebert,
Hmm.
yeah. Yeah, Heckle Biden
Shoot,
during the State of the Union. They
Mike
they weren't
Johnson
they
himself.
weren't sitting.
Like, where was all of this? Even I remember vividly when the other old man, Biden was in office and I love my old people. It's just F Biden. But at the same time,
Yeah.
with when Biden was in office and he was doing his State of the Union, he mentioned the Medicaid situation that Republicans were trying to go after and gut it from the system. All of them were like, boo, you're lying, boo, and all this other stuff. But we want to talk about decorum today.
Yeah. And here's the thing. It's always been a conversation about censorship and a double-edged sword, right? So when we
Hmm.
have so when we have, like, of course, the Democratic Party voted to, since, this kind, not Democratic Party, but, like, of course, those who voted to censor Green, I'm just going to say that,
Hmm.
arguing that maintaining decorum is necessary for democracy to function, right? That's essentially the main argument. But again, the question then becomes, but is decorum worth it when the other
Hmm.
side ignores it completely, right? You have
Hmm.
the GOP who regularly uses disruptions and bold tactics to push their agenda. But when people who are more progressive leaning play by those rules, we're at risk of losing ground. So it's like you said, what I saw was, I was just really disappointed that instead of standing behind this man, we chose to play respectability politics.
Ooh,
And so
child.
supporting him would have, of course, sent a stronger message. And again, support does not mean that you have to necessarily be aggressive. That does not mean that you need to go around looting and, just carrying on like, we don't have any kind of sense. No, we organize, we come together, and we shoot for what it is that we're fighting for. We fight for people, even if it makes you uncomfortable.
Hmm.
I want it to make you uncomfortable because it's wrong. It's humanely wrong.
That part.
You
And
know.
I'm glad that you brought up respectability politics because that has been the thing that has really kept us from progressing. That's really been keeping a lot of people silenced, to be quite
Mhm.
frank about it, because to be a respectable Negro is to be somebody who does not cause any disruptions. It also means that you have to dismiss your own
Mhm.
um, grievances in order to accommodate those other people. If
Right.
we follow respectability politics all the time, women wouldn't have rights, black people wouldn't
Right.
have rights, queer
Right.
people wouldn't be able to be out here and happy and proud if we had to be respectable, because to be of the I guess um I was about to say decorum, but the norm is for you to be silenced, is for you to not be seen.
Yes.
Well, is it seen not heard? Isn't that the
Yeah.
phrasing?
It's like, yes, be seen, not heard. Yes.
So that's essentially what they want us to do.
Yeah.
Like we can be there and operate in these spaces to vote according to the status quo, and not disrupt it. And as soon as
Yeah.
you have the nerve to advocate for something different, now you're going too far.
Yeah.
However, the status quo can continue to shift more conservative to more fascist as much as it wants. But as soon as you decide to give people a little bit more than of what they truly deserve in this life, now we have a problem.
Yeah. And then that's the thing, it's like it, and we have to always be concentrated on what the greater message is. And in this
Hmm.
case, what Green's protest, obviously this outburst and this protest was a righteous act of defiance. And his this censoring of him is highlighting essentially how this kind of like imbalance in how political dissent is treated based on race and ideology, right? So
Hmm.
if people who are more progressive leaning are punished for fighting injustice, while others get away with blatant obstruction of their said justice, then democracy, of course, isn't functioning equitably. And mind you, it's not under some delusion that, we are, all of a sudden that this magical thing happens and all of a sudden we're in an equitable society. We're always fighting for it. We're always fighting for a more equitable society. So the fight is never over. The line is always pushed. But of course, what happens with this current political climate, it's not even to say like you have someone in the White House or you have, people in Congress that are making decisions that, okay, yeah, maybe I'm not favoring, maybe because obviously I would like something else or whatever, but you have people acting in a good decor as we've been talking about
Hmm.
decorum fashion with this Congress and this administration. It is just inhumane, right? You can like or dislike a presidential, elect, or a member, a politician or whatever, and disagree with their policies.
Hmm.
I mean, of course, I'm just going to go on and say for record, of course I love my boy Barack Obama. I love Barack. Did I agree with all of his policies? No,
Hmm.
absolutely not. But in the nature of the way that he is as a elect, as a man, how he carries himself, and those kind of things, they matter.
Hmm.
And so then we can actually sit down and have the conversations that we need to have. Yes, you may get some things you want. No, you may not get other things that you may have wanted. But at least we have the professionalism. We have the decorum. So when we have situations like this, it is to say, if policies are unjust, or humane, I'm going to not just say unjust, but humanely unjust, does it matter how they're protested? So when does decorum again become an excuse to silence necessary resistance? And Green made it clear, when people's lives are at stake, we don't have time for polite politics.
Exactly.
And that's the bottom line.
I was kind of describing it to a friend of mine the other day because he was kind of like, yeah, it is important for you to, do the silent protests and all this other stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that's not a bad thing, but just showing like, but the change doesn't happen often when it comes to that
Yeah,
because you can look
exactly.
over. And
Hmm.
the example I gave him was like, think about what happened in 2020. What really happened in
Yeah.
2020?
Yes.
Black Lives Matters, BLM marches were going on for so many years. But
Yes.
it wasn't until things set off, let's put it that way, to keep the FBI from following people. It wasn't until things got a little bit extra out here in these streets until real change started to happen. Now, even in that moment, the real change was more so performative, but it was started a lot of conversations about, oh, this is now a possibility. We can do this. Now we had, going back to decorum and respectability, we had people having the conversations of what needs to be changed, but not the implementation and action of changing those things.
Exactly, exactly. And then, like I say, it's one of those things where we're not just talking about, and again, all policies are important. So it's not to say that, one is in a hierarchy above another, but what we have with a current administration, again, is getting back into the nature of human rights. People are deathly afraid right now with good
Hmm.
reason. I mean, when this has happened to our country, it's not to just say, oh, okay, we have somebody elected who, yeah, we know kind of like, their, obviously their platform, what they stand for. We know that there's going to be some things that, they'll do that we may not like or whatever. That's with any that's the nature of politics. You're not going to agree with everything a politician does or do even trust the nature of politics. I mean, I'm one of those people. I've never trusted the nature of politics, but that's just an overall umbrella. That doesn't mean that I don't like a person or like a particular person. So dealing with that is one thing. And then you have what we are dealing with now, which is so in another category, where people's humanity and their livelihoods are at stake because of the things that are going on right now. So this is not just a conversation about, oh, like let's kind of like approach this in this way and politely and let's do this and that, because we can't have that type of approach. That type of approach
Hmm.
is not going, not to say it's just not going to work, but it's not even one of those things where you're kind of trying to meet, where you're trying to meet in the middle. There is no middle.
Hmm.
So it's like, no, we have to have a different approach. And no, am I saying that we need to like riot in the streets and things like that? No, absolutely not. I don't believe in that. Just personally for me, I don't believe in that. But I do think that if for others that did not stand with green, it's kind of like, okay, if you didn't want to go about it that way, as you said earlier, but you just did nothing. And that's what's worse. Like I understand
Hmm.
that if you want to come at it in a different way or on a, in a different way or a different front, I get it. You know, I'm not inside the nature of the ins and outs about what they think and how they move. But it's like, come on now, come on
Right.
now, we gotta we
Like
got
one of my favorite political commentary shows. It's called Like It or Not. You can find on YouTube if you ever want to search it, people. It's great. One of the things that the hosts were talking about is, well, specifically the person that they were talking about in this case was Representative Jasmine Crockett, as well as some other
Mhm.
women um, representatives of the House who had this this TikTok video of like choose your fighter, and we have the opportunity for you to actually show up and fight, and none of y'all actually did anything. And the one of the main takeaways, even from that conversation, because it really matched how I was feeling, is when are we going to stop the social media boasting? When you are in a seat of power, utilize the power that you have. Like, yeah, being on social media, participating in these trends, finding a way to be viral in order for other people to know who you are, that is great and all. But when are you going to utilize the power that you have? When are you going to be willing to go to jail? When are you going to, as a party, just be like, you know what? We're going to protest. They're going to be sending us to DC jails anyway. We're going to probably spend 2 to 3 days there until we get out. When are y'all going to take that route so that you don't have quorum in the House of Representatives or in the Senate? Therefore, we cannot pass anything because you can't talk about anything at this moment. When are we going to
Mhm.
disrupt the system that much that even the Republicans cannot even vote on the things that they know that they want to vote for because there's not enough people in the House to make it happen? Like,
Yeah,
utilize the power that we have, well, that
exactly.
you have. Like, save the social media stuff for the people who can do it. Like, yeah, I'm not saying not to be on there. To grow your following and all this other stuff, do that as well, but do put some action behind the things. Utilize that power that you have. Make those people who put you there know, let them see that you're willing to fight for them. Help them know that their vote for you was not worth it, was not worthless. Okay. Um, and it seems as though right now what we have is just people who's just more ready to act as though that they are willing to do the thing. But as we saw on Tuesday, when they have the opportunity, they just sit behind and do nothing. And that's the thing that really, really is irking me right now. So,
Yeah, and along with that, one of the other things that we wanted to, of course, touch on tonight, speaking of Jasmine Crockett, um, is the kind of outspoken, of course, criticism that she has had, with
mhm,
the occupant of the White House, and again, getting into these aspects about what is appropriate and what's not. So if of course if we've been of course following the news, she has made obviously very public statements just like anyone else about his conduct, and so
mhm,
like following a very contentious meeting that happened recently between him and the Ukrainian president, you know labeling him as like an enemy to the US,
mhm,
accusing him of like obviously dictatorship, undermining obviously national security and all these type things. So of course what Jasmine Crockett did walking out in protests and criticizing, like, if you even want to call that a speech, as like not as just pure nonsense, and expressing really like her refusal to tolerate what she perceived as just misinformation. And again, this gets into not just having a aspect where you're just coming into an aspect where you're just disagreeing, and you're trying to get another side of point of view and things like that, but you can't even have a coherent
mhm,
kind of meeting of minds, or conversation or anything like that. But again, what's been highlighted is media and public reception, because I believe it was Bill Mayer, if I'm not mistaken,
mhm,
that critiqued her rhetoric, questioning like its effectiveness and its appropriateness. If I'm not mistaken, I'm not gonna be quoted on the Bill Mayer aspect because I'm not quite sure, but it was either him or somebody else. But in nature, though, the whole conversation was, um, there's again this debate over the balance between passion and professionalism,
mhm.
and where does that line, kind of get blurred.
Yeah. I don't know exactly who it is either, but I do know what you're talking about. And I remember when they were doing their rounds of talking about Representative Crockett and I guess her mouth or whatever. And it's that in itself just reminds me of just the black women should not be able to speak kind of conversations that people have. Because it's like She's doing the same thing that many other Congress people are doing. Are If we were to flip the script, she's doing the exact same, treating them the exact same way that Marjorie Taylor Greene will be treating people in the House, the way that Mike Johnson will treat people during the meetings and whatnot, but they don't like it because it's coming from a black woman. Um, and it's every time they comment on anything that she says, it's always giving black women silence. Like, I need you not to be talking kind of thing. So that in itself does frustrate me. But I do want to take a moment to stand a little bit because I just found this out. Jasmine Crockett is 43 years old. I thought she was in her 30s. Girl, you look good, okay? I just need you to know that. You probably will never hear this, but I hope you do. You look good. Still feel some type of way about you not standing with Al Green, but that's beside the point. You look good, girl. Just wanted to put that out there. But yeah, whenever she does speak up or speak out, it does give the aspect of silence black women. Um, and oh, I do love when she just said "fuck Elon Musk." That was well, they asked, "What are your comments towards Elon Musk?" And she said "fuck you," and I was like, "Oh, yes."
Yeah, because at this point, again, what is there to where is there to say? Like, I don't understand. Like, of course, again, when we go back to the conversation of decorum, it's like, yes, I get it. Like, you can't, obviously be on like your regular, like job and, just say fuck you to, whoever, like your boss or whoever. However, when you've been at an aspect where it's like, you know what? The state of my embodiment is literally being threatened. My livelihood is in nature being threatened. What the hell do I have to lose?
Exactly. And
Honestly,
I
what the hell do I have to lose?
And I need a lot more people. Like I need more people in the Democratic Party to just have the mindset of I'm getting fired in 2 weeks. They're keeping me on because they know that they need me for these last 2 weeks, but I already got the letter to let me know that I'm getting fired in 2 weeks. Go ahead and, do whatever. Your 2 weeks, maybe 2 years. That's 2 years of you cussing people out every single day. That's you 2 years of just calling them out on their BS, regardless of how they may feel about it. Use that energy. Use that energy that you would if you learn that today you are going to be out of a job in 2 weeks. There's nothing that you can do about it. Yes, you're required to be here every single day in order for you to get your last paycheck. I need you to show up with that energy. Give that to these Republicans. Give that to that guy in the White House. Give that also to his husband, Musk up here with his burning ass cars. Give that energy to all of them. Say F you, F what you heard, F what you thought that you heard. This is the facts. This is for the American people. We want to make sure that they are doing better in their everyday lives. And I'm going to point out every single time that you try to take something away from them and be great.
Yeah. And also something that we raised earlier about standing united. I think one of the things is that we face I think we always face a lot of challenges because we face difficulties in consolidating
Mhm.
cohesive messages
Mhm.
against current policies. It's like we talk about them all the time and we know that they're wrong. But I don't know, maybe that's why I'm not as plugged into politics as I once was. Of course, I am still, of course, plugged in. But, again, one of the reasons why I love studying history is because I love seeing unified messages,
Mhm.
so I can understand the message and then I can go into people's individual thought processes. But I think something that, and at least this is just, of course, coming from my perspective, I think because of the fact that we have such sometimes a hard time, kind of consolidating a cohesive message, because we're so concentrated, because if we had varying approaches ranging from various measure kind of like responses to these outspoken, kind of
Mhm.
platforms that we have. I think we could really, do greater.
Mhm.
So like for instance, I always said that in order for us to have a unified message, we have to have a consistent narrative, right? So we can't so we have to, of course, simplify and repeat key messages, I think, across platforms. It doesn't just come from social media. It comes from websites that center on healthcare, economic injustice, reproductive rights, voting rights, all those things. Avoid over complication, right? Something that I see with a particular party of people, and you let me know because I maybe I'm mistaken about this. They often use very short, effective sound bites. Again, if you
Mhm.
think about the nature of the current occupant of the White House, right? Build the wall, make America great again. Really, direct, as screwed up as it is, it's clear, it's direct, it's fucked up, by all means. But it's clear, it's direct, it's catchy.
Mhm.
Whereas I think a lot of other of us who are more liberal leaning, progressive leaning, things like that, sometimes get lost in the policy complexity, right? So to give an example, instead of having this, you know, interpretive message of, I'm just gonna say, like, when it comes like to healthcare, right? I'm just gonna throw something out there. I don't really know if this is a phrase. Like lower prescription drug costs through government negotiation, or something like that. Instead, use something that's more direct and emotionally resonant. Affordable medicine for every American. Bam.
Mhm.
Something that's quick. When we talk about how we leverage our digital platforms and our digital storytelling, right? Getting younger voters consuming them, with news through TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, right? And this is something that, of course, we've already engaged in, but use our voices to amplify, people in the digital content space, like progressive comedians, right? Who translate
Mhm.
policy through engaging content, right? So we just have to be very, I think, when it comes to getting unified messages, we have to think about how can we use our platforms responsibly to
Mhm.
amplify those messages. And see, that's where I think that hopefully we can get better, but it's like with the age of social media that we're living in, it's kind of like I don't see how that's happening, because everything about social media is about branding.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like me and you could have the same goal. However, because our brands may be a bit different, you can't do things that may tarnish your brand because, oh, I'm used to being a little bit more outspoken when it comes to this, versus where you may be a little bit more, not necessarily silent, but laid back when it comes to it. So you can't do things that will upset your users or your viewers or your audience, just because we happen to, agree.
Yes.
So there's a very delicate balance back and forth. I don't know. Like I say, I'm not, heavy into the ins and outs of course, politics, but I just think with the nature of the social media age we live in, um, there's a lot more things that we could be doing to amplify voices that are already present, and know when you need to take up space and when you don't.
Mhm.
If TikTok is not your realm, don't try to appeal to viewers of a TikTok realm. Use the people who are in that space to amplify those messages.
Right.
You know. So I don't know. There's just a whole lot of things that, I think that, can be done to make it so that you're not just trying to be engaging, but you're trying to be educational as well.
And I agree with you 100% that messaging is really the main flaw, especially in the Democratic Party, because they do see the message
Mm,
all the time. Very often, they see the message to other people, and you can tell which messages are reigning true and that are actually winning out the
mm,
narrative, especially when it comes from the progressive side or just Democratic liberal side. You can tell which ones are really defeating the the propaganda of right-wing media because they
mm,
attack it the most.
right.
Like when you think about it, Me Too won.
Mm.
They don't like to admit it as much, but it won. They don't talk about it as much, but they will, still try to talk about pedophilia and all this other stuff and try to single that out to queer people and whatnot and trans people.
Mm,
Um, they'll do their best to try to do that. Um, but Me Too in general beat them. BLM, believe it or not, beat them, which is why they tried their best to reframe it as much as they did to, well, of course, when it just started, they were trying to do the All Lives Matter thing, and people were just like, clear rebuttal. Okay, if all lives matter, does Black Lives Matter as well? Okay, you're racist. So, like,
yeah, and and again, we always have our attention, not necessarily always, I'm not going to say that, but a lot of times we just have our attention focused on the wrong thing because
hmm
like when I think about ways in which we can educate, it's like again, certain parties, more so Republican, use very sarcasm and cultural wars, right, to mobilize their base. So it's
yes.
like I'm like for those of us that are in the middle, a little bit more liberal, progressively, whatever you want to call it, however you identify, we need to stop being defensive. Like stop being defensive. You already know what they're going to do. Like this is not a
hmm
shock. And that's why as much as, of course we need solidarity, we need to have spaces where we can, cry, where we can, bawl our eyes out and complain and do all those things. Really, when this situation, of course, happened with our current political climate, I had a plan of action in mind. I said I was just going to disengage, not to be missing, obviously not to be plugged in or, informed, but it's like I don't get upset with the things that the occupant of
hmm
the White House does because I already know that he's going to do it. So when
Exactly.
he's violating people's rights and things like that, this isn't a shock. It's not a shock. So again, you know they use sarcasm and culture wars to mobilize their base. So stop being defensive and get ahead of
hmm
the narratives. And the best way to do that is through aspects of humor and pop culture engagement. I would love to see, like, instead of making something like, oh, we must strengthen our unions and things like that, go
hmm
ahead, post that meme of Beyonce's Break My Soul. You won't break my strike. Like, go ahead, post that.
Oh, I like
Post
that. I like that. You better
post that meme
channel that
again
activist
after
youth.
the occupant of the White House, after his indictment, post that TikTok video sound bite of it's giving accountability, right? So it's giving accountability. Let's frame it as a necessary legal process.
And the fact
Let's do that.
that they've been gifted so much from this past election that they can use in this current environment.
Yes.
The eggs, come on. Like you do
Come
not
on.
have to do all of this. You could just go like,
Yes.
so these prices of eggs. Now, people in social media land, we're doing that. But
Mhm.
on the
Yes.
levels of where it matters, we're not doing
Yes.
that. Why are you not? So did y'all have an omelet
Exactly.
today? I tried to go to Waffle
Exactly.
House and they said $8. And I was like, oh girl, who me?
Yeah.
Like y'all could do all of this. Y'all could be like, oh, I went to Denny's. I was like, oh, you could hold the eggs because I'm not trying to get that extra $3. Like you could do
Mhm.
all these things, but y'all are not doing it. Why
And
not?
then again, we have to make sure that again we are addressing generational and
hmm
ideological, divides again with a common goal, right? You may not have felt, of course, that Biden isn't going far enough, or while this is happening or that is happening. However, let's have a very clear message. We can debate policies, but we all agree occupant of the White House, magma extremists are a threat to democracy. That we
Hmm.
are united on. Let's stand on that. Let's stand on that.
That part. That
You know.
part.
So again, we have to stop being distracted. Stop being reactive. Let's get ahead of the narrative. Let's implement, let's mobilize, let's do all these things that we can do. As you know, as it's also often said in the entertainment industry, especially when it comes to black, brown people of color, everything like that. A lot of times people have always said, don't think that just because you have a seat at the table that you have a voice.
Mm,
And instead of trying to insert yourself or trying to be where you trying to fit into a table, create your own table.
amen.
Create the table that you want to see, just like Boba, just like my boy Barack says, be the change that you want to see. You know,
Amen.
vote for emotion, not just policy, right? So it's like we know they use scare-based tactics for action, right? So why not flip it on, and do the same thing, but be about empowerment and inspiring. They don't want you to vote. Prove them wrong. So again, and these are not magical solutions. We're not talking about anything about magical solutions or anything like that. But again, as we move forward, I really hope for the healing of us, we continue forward in a way that is not reactive, but we are still mobilizing, we are still defending ourselves, and we're working towards progression while you're trying to undo everything there is about humanity. It's like, especially when it comes to black and brown people, as my mentor was very great about saying when I was in college, we are descendants of people who will not die. So you will never, ever break my spirit. My ancestors fought too hard to even just have a place and a breath in this world. So don't think that your bullshit is going to break my spirit. Now, do every time I see you on the television, I want to choke the hell out of you? Absolutely. Like that's just a natural human response. But so I don't, I
I'm done.
usually don't promote violence, but in sometimes violence is necessary.
Look, violence is not the answer, but sometimes it solves problems. I'm just saying.
Exactly. One of my favorite, just a quick plug. One of my favorite memes comes from it's a controversial film, but like the movie The Aristocrats. And I love like the sister of the movie when she's like in like the little cat hole and she's like, and her brother's like, why should you get to be first? And she's like, because I'm a lady, that's why. And she's like, ladies do not start fights, but we can finish them. And that's how
Amen.
a lot of times I feel. I do not promote violence, but I will get down and dirty if I must.
If I must.
If I must.
Well, speaking of getting down and dirty.
Mm,
So, just to preface this, I'm going to be talking about Dr. Umar, and I may end up being in a rant. So, y'all, Tyrell, hold me back if needed. But before I even go into that, I've mentioned last week that I was going to be watching the episode of Coulda Been Love. It's
mm.
the Druski's show, him finding love or whatever. It's a hot ass mess. Highly recommend if you like trash TV. Um, and this week they had Dr. Umar on. I did not expect one
Mm.
that his appearance on there definitely can be triggering for any person. It wasn't triggering for me because I already know who this motherfucker is. I'm sorry, I'm already cussing like a storm. Anyways, so very interesting that he was on the show, but there was even more stuff that came out about him outside of that show. I'm just scrolling on the TikToks and I just randomly come across this video of his daughter. And I'm just like, why is Dr. Umar anything coming on my For You page? What's this?
Like, is this a
What?
mistake?
Like, is
Is this
this
an
actually a
algorithm? Is this an
mistake?
algorithm mistake?
Like, how did we end up here? But I was like, okay, I want to hear her story because, the For You page finds a way to bless you every now and again. So I'm listening to this young lady. She's 22 years old. She's talking about how Dr. Umar's her dad, how he's been a deadbeat, which was not a surprise for me. But how he's a deadbeat, how he has not been really supportive of her mom, and all this, and she wasn't really trashing him, but essentially what she's saying is that I try to connect with my dad in order for him to introduce me to my other siblings, if I have more than just one, but she does know of one of them. She just wants to be introduced to them. She feels as though that she may be the oldest. We don't know that for sure, but she said as an older sibling, I have younger siblings. I was able to be a leader in their lives, and I want to be a leader in my sister, brothers, whoever else is out there. I want to be a leader in their lives as well. So I just want to, get this family together. And she wasn't disrespectful in any way. She just like, look, I
Yeah.
reached out to him via text. He stopped responding. I had to prove that I was me in all of this. But he's not trying to hear me out. Hopefully, this will get some action behind him, and we can get to the point of me finding who my sister is. She didn't even say, I'm putting this video up in order for my father to be embarrassed, or so that my father can hear me, hear my voice. No, she literally said, I am putting this video up so that it can be shared in hopes that my sister, or my sibling can get in touch with me so that we can build this connection. And boom, Dr. Umar. He decided, because a lot of people can have their speculations about, oh, this cannot be Dr. Umar started, because there's a lot of fake people on this internet. He
Mhm.
confirmed in his message, if you can read and comprehend properly, and I'm not shaming those who cannot. I'm just saying, if you can read it and comprehend the message that he put out there, he confirmed that this is his daughter. He did not say it in words,
Mhm.
like directly say it, but he said it. And he said he needs to be in contact with the mother as well as her. And I'm quite
Mhm.
certain this is similar to some other people that I've seen, that this is his way of setting it up so that he can just have that argument, or that, oh, this is one of those bitter baby mamas who kept me from my child and all this other stuff. And I just want to go ahead and say this for the motherfuckers in the back. If you want to be in your child's life, there are ways to do it. It's called legal ways to get that
Mhm.
custody. If you're saying that my baby mama is all this and all that and she's keeping me from my kids, if you really want to see that kid, you will take her to court. Okay? That's
Mhm. Yeah.
first and last. Okay? Did he
Yeah.
go to court for his children? He sure as hell did not.
Yeah.
Okay?
No.
Just putting that out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's
My
stop with the excuses.
my issue with Dr. Umar, his daughter even brought it up a little bit. But my main issue with Dr. Umar is that he talks the talk, doesn't walk the walk, and also provides ill-informed information. I consider him a broken clock, all right? And we all know a
Mhm.
broken clock can be right twice a day, right? But
Mhm.
the issue with him being a broken clock is that so many people wear that clock and use that as a way for them to manage their time throughout the day. Don't
Mhm.
do that. He is not the clock that you need to be using. This man is going to continue to give you misinformation on misinformation, all wrapped in Pan-Africanism, which his version of Pan-Africanism is not even correct. Like, he can call you queen and all that, but he is not really trying to uplift you. He may say the words to make you feel as though that you are a queen, but his actions go completely differently, because he will disrespect you as a woman, he will disrespect you as a man and call you less than. This man is not good, okay? He's just not. Like, I need for a lot more people to really take a step back and go against the narratives that they've been fed throughout all their lives of what a man is supposed to be, what a black man is supposed to be, what a woman's supposed to be, and what a black woman's supposed to be, and what a black family or a black household is supposed to look like. Remove those narratives, remove the things that he's trying to communicate, and find your own family and find your own sense of understanding of reality that does not involve this nigga, because I am tired. I am so fucking tired of this man. Like, every other week he still has not completed this damn school that he started in like 2015, not 2015. It was like I think it might have been 2015. That school has not been touched. Like, there is
Do we should we get progress updates?
listen. Like he's been sought after by the IRS. This man is also a Trump supporter, which a lot of people don't know. Like this man who is supposed to be all about blackness is over here like, yeah, I didn't vote, but if I had to vote, I would have voted for him. What? What are we what? Who is so not that this man is under my skin, it's just that the narratives that he push harms the black community. For him to continue to speak on how black men are not being a support in their families, and you yourself is not a support to your child, black man who's damaging yet another black queen by not being present in her life. Shut up. Shut up with the foolishness. Just shut all the way up. Because my thing, black men statistically, black fathers statistically are more involved in their children's lives. Yes, single black homes are a thing, but that does not mean that there's no co-parenting going on. Single, in terms of statistics, just means this person is not married. Okay, it does not mean that there's a second person in the home or not. So,
Yeah, and I wasn't as familiar, with him because I don't follow him, of course. But so I did like some digging and some history before, we had our episode tonight, and it's just like the gall and the audacity of certain like these claims. So like what I found, like he made like this speech, and like posts, that was having something to do with this very unfounded claim that Bill Gates advocated for the death of 3 billion people as part of a population control agenda. And of course, everybody is like, that lacks any type of evidence or fact check. They say he also said something, accused like organizations like the Population Council and Planned Parenthood of employing homosexuality as a strategy for population control within the black community.
well, I forgot about the homophobia. Oh my God.
And again, we are laughing because of the absurdity, not because it is funny. But guys, listen, we live in a time where you have to laugh at absurdity because if you don't, it will just really boil
It
inside of
will.
you, and as it should. But we have to find ways to just laugh at absurdity.
We have to. I will honestly, because Kevin Samuels was one of the people I just wanted to debate about relationship things.
Mhm.
Dr. Umar's another person. Like, if ever you feel like it, sir, come on. Like, this is not to dismiss the fact that he has earned his doctorate because he did. He went to a medical school. He studied clinical psychology. I don't know if he practiced as much or if he's still practicing. But I don't want to anyone to think that he did not go to school for that. And I definitely double check to make sure. But yeah.
But still, I'm speaking of, the perspective of somebody who is about to graduate with their doctorate. It is
Hmm.
one of those things that I feel like when it comes to academia or however you want to classify it, you can have be knowledge dumped all the way to the
Hmm.
skies. That doesn't make you in touch with reality. You know,
Facts.
as I tend to say in my classes all the time, the reason why I love teaching is because I love learning from a prism of perspectives. Learning from prisms of perspectives helps me to be not only a better teacher, but it helps me to be a better human. It helps me to be a more of an empathetic human. I can still believe what I believe at the end of the day.
Hmm.
However, the way in which I address things that I disagree with, things that, fuel my fire and things like that, to never be dismissive of, other people. Now, yes, if you come way out of left field with something that I'm like, no, this ain't it. I'm gonna address it accordingly. Be like, okay, well, that may, work for you, but that's not the reality I live in. So there you go.
Exactly.
But
And
yeah, it's just these absurdities of things that were mentioned, like as I was doing this research, in of course in 20, of course in the more recent election, he expressed this belief that this debunked narrative that the occupant of the White House was cheated out of a victory in 2020. So he wanted to say fraud claims. He again thinking about the nature of being queer, he had as a mental disorder,
hmm
claiming that there's ability to treat it. So there's that. And then of course he actually had this thing of saying being very opposed to interracial marriage.
hmm
Suggesting that interracial marriage undermines the black family structure, apparently.
Yep. Yep.
And now, mind you, again, it's not to say that everything that he's saying is completely disregarded. Me and you have openly talked about, we just talked about last week. We want more black love. We want more black same gender loving love. And, however, what is one of our stipulations? We are not saying that, of course, in the aspect that we do not like, or we think there is something grotesquely absurd about interracial marriage. Not at all.
hmm
So, that's just one of those aspects of you have like multiple things can be true,
Exactly.
So yeah. I just yeah, so yeah, reading some of these highlights about him were interesting.
The man is an ass itch, all right? And it's one of those that's kind of like he is a colon itch, fam. Like you cannot dig hard enough to get this itch, right? He is that deep in it. Like not for real, but like I don't really follow him. It's just usually he somehow pop up on my for you page or somewhere in social media, and now I have to take some of this in because why is it here? But like I worry about the people who follow him like he's the gospel
Mm,
because I don't think they are. I don't feel as though many of them take a step outside of what he's communicated to really reflect on how this advice has really impacted their lives. Like even when it comes to people who spout the narrative about how being queer, being a gay man, gay black man is disrupting the black family system. But again, we're not talking about the impact of straight men in general on our family systems. Dr. Umar, his behaviors on how that disrupts or interrupts the family system since he's not showing up for his black daughters, his young black queens. So
mm,
what are you trying to communicate is that are you trying to communicate that you are above reproach? Are you communicating that you're above the narrative that you're trying to put out there for other people to follow? Because let's be real, it's not. Your daughter's going to be impacted. She is being impacted. And for those people who are commenting on just a personal grievance about how oh, this is a 22-year-old girl. She don't need her father anymore. Why is she doing all this stuff on social media? She did not in one moment of that video said she needed her father for one. She said clearly she had a man in her life who was her stepfather and he raised her well and she appreciate that man's every single day. And even at that, you cannot fault this 22-year-old. You cannot fault this child for the actions of her father being of his absence. She has the right to want his presence. She has the right to desire for him to be there. She has a right to find closure in him not being there. She has all of that. Your
mm,
lack of empathy of showing that to this young child who really needed that, who really needs to know or has that deep desire of knowing who her siblings are. I need you to reflect on why you think that she doesn't deserve those things
mm.
because that says a lot about you and your character.
Yeah,
So just
absolutely.
want to put that out there to read those people who got a problem with her.
Mm,
Like
absolutely.
she good.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I feel better now.
Wonderful. You know, y'all, sometimes we just have to purge, and that's what makes these discussions so enlightening.
Well, Terrell, do you have anything else that you want to share for this episode?
I just think that as we're talking, I love the nature of how, a lot of times our topics come together. Just, not even really, y'all, we really do not like have a script. Like we really don't rehearse. We love to give y'all just raw, like our raw, honest thoughts about whatever it is that we're talking about. And I love especially how tonight's conversation really centers on a multitude of things about media and misinformation. So no matter if we're talking about like the occupant of the White House or Dr. Umar, they are prime examples to show how misinformation, when left unchecked, can shape public perception, right? And discussions that we have about policy. So as we are talking about um, of course, Al Green, Jasmine Crockett, all of these kind of aspects of politics, it's clear that digital platforms, as we all know, dictate political influence more than ever. So that's why we have to make sure that we are uh, engaging in strategies that mobilize us more effectively. Um, Again, when we're talking about these figures, thinking about how Black media personalities, right? How do we actually culturally go gatekeep, right? How do we talk about social norms, gender expectations, and how that plays out in digital spaces? And so I think a key question of tonight, and I just think that's something we need to continue to think about, is how do we hold public figures accountable while also resisting this aspect of performative outrage?
Mm.
Because again, multiple things can be true, two things, two wrongs don't make a right. So how do we actually, continue to address those things? So again, just want to leave everybody with tonight, when we're engaging in viral stories, political debates, cultural controversies, let's just ask ourselves some things, right? Who's benefiting from this narrative, first and foremost? What's being amplified and what's being ignored? And then thinking about an inward question to yourself: how can I be more of a critical and engaged participant in shaping digital discourse? Because again, the ultimate message ultimately comes back to you. The things that you intake, the things that you respond to and react to, it matters. It matters. So again, I'm off my tangent for tonight.
Hey, leave us with a word. All right, and I say that is the episode. So, thank y'all so much. I'm going to write a better way of closing out the show too, by the way. We'll come back to that. But anyways, thank y'all so much for listening to the Melanin and Moonlight podcast, and we'll see y'all next week. Y'all take care.
Bye.